Hello, welcome back for another episode of the Debate Wheel. I have a wheel loaded with tons of Lego Star Wars controversial topics, concerns, critiques, interesting questions to ponder, stuff like that. We'll spin the wheel at random. Whatever it pops up on, that's what we're going to talk about here in the video. So, let's spin the wheel. Arm printing, necessary or overrated? I am definitely in the necessary column. I don't think it's necessary for every single figure, but I'm definitely in the necessary column. Let me grab some figures so I can have talking points here. All right. I think it'd be crazy to say that arm printing is not necessary. I think arm printing adds a lot of value. It's a lot of good real estate on the minifigure that some of these identifying marks or signature looks come from these spaces. Especially, I think one of the biggest examples of this is the Mandalorian characters. And by that I mean Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Jango Fett. I think those guys have such cool armor over top of all of their arms, and they have their cable ties, their flamethrowers, their shoulder padding, everything they have on there that is really cool to be able to show in the detail that Lego can on the minifigure. We can start with the most famous representation of arm printing out there, and just it's so clean, the detail that they're able to do on these arms while still keeping it simple. I do like that Lego doesn't go extremely hyper detailed, but that they do add enough detail on there in order to show what they want to show. I think that is a really good representation of why arm printing is so important. To be able to compare and contrast, regular clone trooper, no arm printing. Granted, I don't know if you would be expecting arm printing on a bare bones clone trooper. However, compare that with the new Captain Rex, who has a minimal arm printing on there, but it does show the detail. I think the blue stripe is important. I just feel like all of that is not that hard to show a little bit of detail on the arms. That's a better example. Blue on blue. You know what I mean? That blue stripe adds a lot. And I understand them wanting to save it for Rex, right? As the commander, he gets a little more detail than the rest of the basic clones. But it just adds such good detail. And I think now that it's becoming more prevalent, it's very obvious when it's not there on characters that people are expecting it to be on. Again, I think bare bones general clone troopers don't necessarily need the arm printing, although a little black line or two just to sort of show like a shoulder plate and then a forearm bracer would go a long way, and then saving the color and the more specified looks for captains and commanders and stuff like that. I think that would be fine, but I do think that there's figs that have come out that don't have arm printing, and it stands out so much when something doesn't have it. I think we're more expecting it now at this point for unique figs or higher priced figures or higher priced sets that really should come with all the detail that it should come with. And a big example I can think of that is the Darth Vader from the new Gingerbread AT-AT. Darth Vader in the new Gingerbread AT-AT has just bare arms. And it's so obvious, it stands out so much that they're just plain like that. His legs even have a little bit of printing. It's just such a big miss for a guaranteed one-off figure like this, especially when we just got a more unique Darth Vader figure, Jedi Vader, that has really good arm printing on it, and it's pretty minimal. It's just some stripes down and a little thing to show his shoulder pauldron, but do that with the little icing look on the gingerbread figure, and this would have been perfect. So I think that was a letdown for me. I think arm printing is necessary on unique figures we're going to get, one-off figures that we're not going to get for a long time or we're never really going to see again, that meet a certain threshold, right? But I think it's important to put the detail on the figs. If it's going to be already be a special one-off fig or a very limited edition figure, include the arm printing. You have the ability to print on the arms. I think it stands out so much when they don't have printing, and it just ruins the vibe of the fig a little bit. Now, they don't all need arm printing, right? Like Obi-Wan, this is Obi-Wan from his new Jedi Starfighter, just wearing a brown cloak. Makes sense that he doesn't have arm printing. Fits the character vibe well. However, I haven't opened this yet to build it. New Obi-Wan in the V19 Torrent is rocking his Clone Wars armor and therefore has this beautiful print on the arms to show that he's in his Clone Wars armor. That is awesome. That is what I want to see, and it's what LEGO's doing for the most part. Giving us the prints that we want to see on the figures that need the prints. I don't think arm printing is overrated at all. It's hard for me to think of any reason. It's hard for me to think of any modern example where arm printing was not great. I don't think they've done any over printing or over detail in the arm space to my memory, but let me know. I might be wrong. However, it just adds so much character, right? Mando, with his awesome shiny armor, gets that awesome arm printing on both of these. That just makes the character look so cool. It just makes it feel so much more of a LEGO version of the in-universe one, considering how large of a part his arms and his armor and all that stuff plays into it. I don't think it's overrated at all. I think it's expected at this point. I think it's necessary for a lot of characters at this point. And I think really the exceptions to the rule are going to be general clone troopers, stormtroopers, stuff like that, that doesn't need any extra detail. They have a pretty slick uniform already, or people maybe wearing just general, like a t-shirt or a long sleeve shirt or something like that in universe. Poe's wearing just a white shirt, does not really need any arm printing, and I do think trying to force arm printing on this with a little fold design or a little black line would just look dumb. I do think LEGO does have a unique style of simplistic look, but they're able to add a little bit of detail. Unique to LEGO minifigures, it's what I like. I really like that style of LEGO minifigures, the line that they can walk with detail versus simplicity. And I think if they really started adding it and forcing it onto every single minifigure, it would be atrocious. There'd be a lot of minifigures that looked way worse with arm printing than without. But arm printing in general, there's no way. I can't imagine anyone saying arm printing is overrated unless you have just blinders on and you exclusively like the old school minifigs that were really simple, and that is what you consider to be peak LEGO Star Wars. You could say that that's your argument, but that doesn't really play into account that much because this guy is from that era and he's got the coveted arm printing. So arm printing has been around for a minute, but I do appreciate that it's becoming more and more prevalent and more standard for a lot of characters. Again, I'm glad they're not walking a too detailed line. For me, sometimes custom clones that I see photos of or customs that people make, that 360 wrap, sometimes they're too detailed. They're too hyper detailed. That style is not for me. I do appreciate the aesthetic that LEGO goes for with their minifigures. But to me, arm printing is included in that. Arm printing doesn't take away from the level of detail versus simplicity that they're able to strive for. Arm printing to me, absolutely necessary on a majority of figures, especially named characters, really. Named characters where something on their arms can really signify something that they're a part of. Obi-Wan's clone armor, Mandalorian and Boba's different pieces that they wear as part of their outfit. I think arm printing plays a huge role, and we need to keep encouraging them to do that. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my take on arm printing, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.